Hi, I'm Arash again, and you're participating in third lesson of our CATIA Essential course. In the previous lesson, we talked about the sketch environment and some feature of that, and the first feature was the profile, which I talked about before, which is a pretty simple and useful feature to use. This is quite easy to make something here, and you can also use it to make some arc. Yeah, that is quite wonderful. Another feature which is really quite wonderful is constraints. uh, its name is constraint, but the most use of this is for dimensioning. We use it for making dimensions to what we draw here. So for start, I'm gonna draw some profile, which we learned from previous lesson, and yeah, that's it. And this is our custom profile, which have four sides. One of them is not perpendicular to other ones. So these lines, these shapes are not fixed, and if I click over it and I drag it, I can easily change the size, change its location, or change its angle or anything else. If we also don't have these constraints here, like this one has constraints of horizontality, constraint of being horizontal. If I delete this, and if I move this point, I can see that I can make this unhorizontal and some slope shape. If I delete this, we can also do some crazy stuff here. And if I delete that too, we have unconstrained shape. But still we have shape, because we have one constraint here, which is that these two lines have one point in common. So even when we have no constraint here, we have four constraints which are not visible here. So with the constraints command, we can easily make a constraint for this. For example, I want this line to be 50. I can easily, uh, let me do it again with some patience. I can click here, right here, select this constraint, select this line, and I have this dimension floating over here, and I put it somewhere here. I click it and put it there. If I double click on it, there would be a window open for me. So I can now, without clicking on anything, I can press 50 in my keyboard and press enter. So this line will be 50. And similar to that, I can use this again, and for this one I can choose 45. That is quite simple. You know what is more simple than that? If I double click on it, I make it active as long as I want it. So I click over here and I double click it and I change this value to 20. My constraint is still active. So I can make another constraint like this. I can make it 30. And my constraints are still active, and I can make another constraint too. Like, let me not jump over that. If I want to deactivate that, I just have to click on it again and turn it off. So I have four-sided shape which all of them has specified dimensions. But there's something missing here. They are not fully constrained because their angles are not specified. So I want to make a constraint for their angles too, but there are no specific for the constraint for angles here. So I click it again and I click this line and this line. Click constraint, select this line and this line. I have my angles active and I can easily set an angle here like 60 degrees. And I can set an angle for this one. I think that is not good because this one accept another angle and this is our final angle. We don't need another angle to make it fully constrained. But our part is still floating on this area. One thing I want to make, I have to do to make it fully constrained is giving a dimension for where it is, for where it's located, location dimension. I want to specify that this point has this dimension of like 40 from uh, z-axis and have dimension of 40 with y-axis. So I think that must make our part some constraint, but there is still a rotating constraint here. If I want to make it not rotate and be still in one position like this position, I have to make an angle constraint too. So I select constraint, I select this part, this line, and I right click here. I select this line and why is it like this? I want to select this line. Yeah, that is there it is. I select this line and when I click it, if I want to put this dimension, I only right click here and I select to be horizontal. So this line will be aligned with the horizontal line. And you see that all my lines, everything I draw here is green, which means that all my sketch, all my parts, all my lines and points and dimensions here are all fully defined. So that means that my job is done here. Uh, what is the big thing about this fully defined thing? This means that I do not need any more dimensions to make it more fully defined. You know that if I want to make a constraint to say that from this line to this line, I want to have some other dimensions. If I want to put it here, I can see that a lot of dimension here goes purple. And that's bad because I cannot put more dimensions to it. This is illegal to have more dimensions than it's needed. And if we have less dimension than it needed, it will be bad too. So another thing which I can do is set a constraint here and change it to something mm, unusual. So let's make it 40. That's also make everything uh, goes purple, which means that there is an error here. So we see our uh, shape fully defined here, but there is something good about being fully defined. If you delete something, you know, like I want to delete this 60 degrees, all my part, all my dimensions will still have the same values, but my angle is differing and changing. So after I delete that, I want to make this line vertical. So I select constraint, and because I select the line already, I have my constraints activate, but I have the dimension ones, and I'm still not activating that. And before I click left click that, I right click here, and I choose vertical constraint for that. Yeah, that goes instead of 60 degrees, which means we have vertical line here and horizontal line here, and we have perpendicular here, so that we have 90 degree in this area. And that is quite interesting. Another thing that I can do here, I can delete this 45, and now I can see that this dimension 45 is changeable for me. I can also make it like this, and I want this to be like this, and I don't want to make any more constraint for that. So I select the constraint and select this, and before setting this constraint I click right and set fix. Yep, that is fixed. So we have some purple area here, which means that we have our constraint area. And if I delete that, I see that our constraints are enough, because this part is fixed, and we don't need the 20 dimensions. We just need some a line to get to that fixed line. So that is another interesting thing to do. Another thing we can do with constraint, if I wanted to measure the length of this line, but not in this way, I want to measure this line from this point to this line. What should I do? One thing I can do, first of all, I delete this 50. I can select this constraint, select this point, and select this line, and have a constraint here, have a dimension here. What what else I can do is I can click constraint, select this line for dimension, and select that horizontal measure direction, so that my lines will be go horizontal, or click right and choose it vertical, so it will be vertical. And if I don't want to make any constraint for that, and I don't I just wanted to uh, wanted to see what is its dimension, I can easily right click and choose reference. So I have this for reference, and my part is not fully defined. So I can change this whatever I want, and this reference is changing inevitably. So maybe that can conclude our lesson on this constraint, but I'm making you sure this is not the end of this lesson, and there is a lot of thing to do with this beautiful constraint. So I want to choose another constraint, and let me not choose other features and other commands until we finish this constraint, because we need to learn the constraint fully, so we can go to other commands and learn them faster. So we select the profile, and I just make something like this. And these two lines are not connected with these three lines here. We have two open shape here. And what did I told you about knowing that what if we have closed shape or open shape? We can come here in tools and sketch analysis. So it is visible that we have two opened part. One of them consists of three curves, and one of them consists of two curves. But we want to make them closed. So we select this constraint, select this point, and also select this point. We have a dimension here, and we can settle it and we can make it 0. But we can also do is right click on it and select constraint, consider coincide, coincidence. So it will be merged together. If we select these 2 points and we select swap location, this 11 is going to be in the other way. If I select swap location, it's going to be another way. You get the idea what it is. For example, I want it to be 2 millimeter near each other or 2 millimeter across each other. I select it again, and in more I can select swap location, and they are 2 millimeter crossing each other. I don't want neither of them, so I select Ctrl Z and undo it, or just delete that. So when I select this, I have some other things to do, which is really fascinating, but uh, not not in this case. So let me show you what is allow symmetry lines. I can just coincide it to make it short. If I have a line here and let me use profile. If I have a profile here, one here, and I deactivate it and have another line here, and I wanted this 2 line to be identically mirrored together through this line, I should use constraint, select the right one, select the left one, or vice versa, and right click using allow symmetry line. If I select this, it asks me for the symmetry line. It says position the dimension for symmetry line. I choose the Z axis. So these two are symmetries. Maybe their lengths are not equal, but they are symmetrical. Another thing we can do, if we select constraint and if I choose this line and I choose this line afterward and I right click here and choose parallelism, I have these two lines parallel together. If I don't have this constraint of perpendicularity, like here I don't want it, I click it and I delete it right over here, and I wanted to make the perpendicular here, so I select constraint and select these two, and instead of setting the 90 degree, I right click here and set perpendicular. That's another thing to do for this. If I draw a line here and I make an arc here, and if I want to make another point, another line which goes right after the center of this, maybe we cannot find the center, the center is really visible here, we can easily make the constraint and use these two together and select constraint for this. If we don't want to choose that, we can choose this arc and this point and choose concentricity. So this point is the center of this arc. And if we have another line here, and if we want these two to be tangent together, we select constraint, select this line and this arc, and right click, select tangency. These two now are tangent. Like here, you can see that if I move it everywhere while I'm dragging, this gonna be always tangent to this. But if I want it to be not like this crossing each other, if I want them to be in continuing each other, I just have to make these 2 points coincidence. So that is continuous line. There is some other features to it, but I think now that's good, and this is concluded to our tutorial about constraint. If you like this video, please push the like button, and if you have a comment and if you think that I might be wrong in some aspects of this tutorial, please write me in the comments. And if you like this video, please watch our previous videos, and also if you mind activating this little bell over here, you can have our videos for you right after we publish it. Yeah, I think that's concluded to our tutorial.